Welcome to Setting Up Multiview with Velocity. Velocity is the Atlona control system, and we're going to show you what a powerful tool it can be when using it with OmniStream. To understand the settings and elements of Velocity, you should have taken the online Level 301 Velocity certification. This will give you the elementary elements necessary to understand the steps that we'll be walking through with Velocity. Level 301 should have been completed before taking this content so that you can understand what we are doing in the custom UI. If you are familiar with OmniStream and Velocity, you know that once you've set up your device, you can locate them using the Velocity Device Manager. It will automatically locate all of the Atlona devices. Now, I'm going to add them to the room that I created. We can also check out our system using the virtual matrix. This is very useful if you have a large system. This will only allow for the switching of the full-size streams and does not allow for multi-view. Under our room, we need to make certain that we have a display and a touch panel. We're not controlling any of the sources, so there's no need to add them. We can set the alias names so that we know which is which. I'm going to rename my devices. One of the most significant changes in Velocity 253, besides the integration of Multiview, is the change of where the Save button is located on the Edit device cards. You'll no longer see the orange buttons, but rather the header will follow regardless of the size of the device. So if you scroll to the bottom of the touch panel, you do not have to scroll back up to save. It also does not kick me out of the device. I can continue to make changes to the device and simply exit. Our wall plate is the HDVS cam, and we're going to set it up the same way, changing the alias and showing the icon. The Omni 112 has the wave and a 1080p media player. Finally, I'll set up the decoder and connect it to the display. Now, because we're using the template, Velocity must have everything work through IP input 1, so we need to simply disable the other inputs on our decoder to allow for full stream switching. You will also need to set input 3 for the audio port on 1100. Now, let's check to see if our system is switching. To switch with Multiview, you're going to need to use the custom UI that we taught in Level 301. We have to go back into the decoder and enable our IP inputs for our Multiview to work and make sure that they're still working properly on the decoder. Once we confirm that everything is working properly, let's open our custom UI for the touch panel. We looked at macros under 301, and we showed you that you can set up a room on or off, as well as a split or combine. But we also did a macro for the mute gain 60 under the Actions tab of the custom UI. So what's the difference? You can create macros in either location, but you can only edit those that are created in the button from the button. This is the way to create the fast, simple changes that we don't want to recall later. For this video, we're going to create them under the main macro section and recall them from each button. For more information about these macros, feedbacks on button, and other deeper items, they are taught in the Advanced Velocity Training Level 302. Now, let's start by setting up our quad multiview. Select a solid button, and let's call it Quad Multiview. Now, let's locate the main macro tab and create our first macro, Multiview Quad. Under the device, select our decoder. The command we will run is HDMI output. We're just switching video for this multiview. If we want to assign an audio output, we would do the video and the audio. The IP input is none because we're going to select the multi-view that we created in our decoder. Back under the button, we will name it to what's going on, changing the multi-view quad. And then let's select Actions. And under our logic actions, we will select Run Macro. Then we'll locate the global macro Multi-View Quad. Now we're going to set up another button just like this one with the side by side. Select the solid button, call it side by side. Under the macro section, you will create the multi-view side. Then we'll have it run the HDMI output video only and select multi-view side. On the button, select the logic actions and the run macro, and finally, multi-view side macro. Great. Now let's test it. Now we need to set up our picture-in-picture because we know that there is a scaling that has to take place when you select the PNP with the camera. Let's open our global macros and create the PNP. We will call it Multiview PNP, and we'll set it up on the decoder, and then we'll add another item. We want to set the wall plate encoder to set the scaling of the camera to 720. And then let's check it. You'll see that when we go back into the quad view, you'll need to change it back to 1920 by 1080. So go back under the quad and we can add the command to change the encoder scaling. And if I check the quad view and the PIP, it works great. But what if I still want to see all of my inputs at full screen? We can simply add 4 buttons and then select those video inputs to switch to full screen. But let's also use the thumbnails from the encoder as the button. To do this, under the widgets, you'll see the thumbnail. This creates a new button and will allow you to add the URL for the image. Let's grab the URL from the first encoder. Now, under the actions, we'll set up the macros. So let's set it to switch to full laptop. Then select the decoder and the command for the video and audio. The video input for laptop is 1 and the audio stream is 3. Remember, this is why we set up all our video and audio inputs separately so that we can switch them both. Let me fast forward and set up the other 3 the exact same way. Give me just a moment. Great. Now let's test it and see how it works. Just like that, I have my encoders and multi-view switching. Join us in the next video on setting up video walls with OmniStream and controlling them with Velocity.